Hello, this is Pupu Noob again, and today I have another game dev interview. This time is Scraping Bottom Games. I got that right?
Yep.
Yes.
Scraping Bottom Games, right? And their game is Fictorum. Basically, it's an action RPG where you play a powerful mage, and it's currently on Kickstarter. So, with me today is Greg and Chip,
Yes.
both the co-founders of Scraping Bottom Games. How you doing, guys?
Doing great. How are you?
Nice. I'm good. I just woke up, so
Hey, what time is it there?
very good. Now it's 9 a.m.
Oh.
9:07. I'm 13 hours ahead, I believe.
Okay. Yeah.
So-
Our days are just coming to a close. So.
Nice. So yeah. So usually I start by breaking the ice, right? I'm gonna ask you guys two very simple questions, so you can choose which one you want to answer from these two. You don't have to answer both.
Okay.
So, what have you guys been playing recently, or what are your favorite games of all time? Like 5 or something.
Huh.
All right.
Okay.
Unfortunately, I haven't been playing anything lately because I've been busy working on Fictorum. Other than that, my top favorite, my top 5 games of all time. Just off the top of my head, we're going to go with some older games like Wing Commander, especially Wing Commander 3. That was one of my favorite games of all time. Fallout 2 is absolutely fantastic. Diablo 2 is absolutely fantastic. And Mass Effect 2 is absolutely fantastic. I really like sequels,
Nice.
apparently.
Right.
And for a 5th one, I'm going to pick yet another, Myth 2, which was one of my favorite, maybe my favorite game of all time.
Nice. What about you, Chip?
And for me, most recently, I've been playing. Also, like Greg, I haven't been playing that much, but I've been playing a little bit of Binding of Isaac Rebirth, and let's see.
Rebirth. That's the newest one, right?
That I can't. I'm not sure. I think that is.
Is that an afterbirth, I believe?
There is an Afterbirth as well.
Right.
So yeah, so there was a combo pack. I've been playing that a little bit. And that follows the other one I've been playing leads into my favorite games. I just got my friend was borrowing Chrono Trigger from me for the longest time, and I finally got it back via mail. Oh, a month ago, and I've been slowly working my way through it again, which is wonderful. That was one of my childhood favorites.
Nice. Which version are you playing?
It's the SNES version, American SNES.
Nice.
So classic. That's exactly what I played. So, favorite games of other favorites. I'm gonna echo Diablo 2. It's the perfect game. I mean, I'd have to include this just by sheer volume of playthroughs. But FTL is a big one of my favorites. Let's see. I love Super Smash Brothers. If anyone ever challenges me to that, I get super excited. My brother and I have a decade-long rivalry between the two of us. I think I've had him pretty well beat for the last 8 of those years. So at least there's that. And yeah, I think those are all that come to mind right now.
All right. Okay, so I think the audience wants to know what is Fictorum. So tell us, what is your game Fictorum about, and what makes it unique? What's a compelling reason for someone to play Fictorum when it's out?
Go ahead, Greg.
Fictorum's an action RPG where you play as a really powerful mage, and that's really what it comes down to, is being able to wield magic that just destroys buildings, kills lots of people in one shot. Just never really been a game where you play as that truly powerful mage that just nothing stands in their way. So that's why we started making the game, because we wanted to play that game. We couldn't find a game out there that let you play as that powerful mage. So that's our biggest unique thing, is just playing as this really, really powerful badass mage.
That's right.
Nice.
With so many different, so with across the board for fantasy games, it kind of breaks out into your warriors, your rogues, and your wizards. And there have been games that have done wizards and warriors and rogues especially well. Look at the God of War series or the Thief franchise. Assassin's Creed could even be thrown in there. Just the list goes on for that type of game. But as far as wizard games like that just do a wizard super well, not a whole lot of those.
Right, right. So also tell us about Scraping Bottom Games. How many people are working there, and like what are their roles?
We have let's see, we have a team of 7, and the company has been around for just over a year. We have 2 developers, Greg and myself. We have an environmental artist, character artist, UI artist, writer, and sound/music designer.
Okay. And where did the idea and inspiration come from for Fictorum?
Just from our previous experience with video games and fantasy novels that we have read growing up, where we always read about these powerful mages such as the Dragon Reborn, Kavath, Gandalf, evil mages like Voldemort, and that level of wizard. And there's never been we were talking about how there's just never been a game that lets you explore that role. So that's where a lot of our inspiration came.
So it's more feeling a need.
Yeah.
Yes. I love playing wizards in games, and that's just kind of my go-to. Like every time I start a new game, wizards usually the first thing I choose, and they're generally unsatisfying to play. And there are games that have all of the options for what you can play, and typically I've just enjoyed myself playing warriors and rogues more just because they play better typically. And I that deep-seated discontent kind of bled through into this game design, and we're really happy with the outcome. It's satisfying. It's just plain fun, I'm thrilled to be working on it.
Nice. So yeah, basically I can only think of like maybe Skyrim and what's that? Lichdom Battle Mage. Have you guys played that?
Yeah, we have. Lichdom runs into. I don't want to be too critical because the spells in Lichdom look absolutely fantastic. But it followed the first-person shooter formula a little bit too much. I didn't beat the game. I couldn't quite get into it because it was a lot of go down the corridor, fight a group of mobs, go down a corridor, fight a group of mobs.
Yeah, pretty much.
And then it's had this excessively complicated crafting system that I didn't feel like going to a wiki to read about it. So that was another one of our goals, is to make a game that's very simple to pick up and just play and enjoy. I have 2 kids, and I don't have as much time to play games as I would like to. And so it's really important for me to be able to sit down and play a game for maybe just even 5 minutes and be able to enjoy myself.
What is the engine that you guys are using?
We're using the Unreal Engine 4.
Is there any reason that you chose Unreal over any other?
Well, mainly because it was free.
That's was our biggest decision point.
That was pretty much it. And then we started using it, and it was just really easy to get up and running. Their tutorials are amazing. Their kind of demo projects are well documented and just give you a great way to get started into game dev. We both come from somewhat programming backgrounds and have an understanding of programming logic and things like that. But for me, this is my first foray into game dev, and so it really facilitated that transition from programmer into game developer. And I really enjoy working in the engine. It's like a kid in the candy store whenever I have a free afternoon and have the engine open.
Nice. So just going back to Lichdom Battle Mage for a second, because I think people can't help but to compare.
Yeah.
Because I think it is the only game that you can play only a mage. I think.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think it's the only game I can think of where the focus is on playing a badass
and
mage.
it's a pretty recent game. Like, it came out in 2014.
Yep.
So a couple of issues that I had with that game was, like you said, the spellcrafting was very complicated, but once you sort of get the idea of it, you tend to not experiment because a few combinations will just be the best ones, and then you'll just continue using the same type of spells. You might upgrade it, but that's about it. And the other problem I had with that game, and a lot of people that have with that game, is very bad frame rates. So I'm not sure if it's because of it's not efficient or it's because of the spells, but it's really bad frame rates. And even on their console release, which was pretty recent, also had pretty bad frame rates.
I think that's being generous to them. We watched a we watched a video review of their console release and couldn't believe what we were seeing.
Yeah.
So my question is, in Fictorum, players can destroy the buildings, right?
Yep.
Can they destroy environments like hills and stuff?
No, they cannot.
So it's just buildings.
It's just buildings and hopefully trees one day. Trees are also currently indestructible.
Yes.
Nice. So, first off, why did you make it so? Like, why is it just to give a feeling of power to the player to be able to destroy the buildings?
Absolutely. So I was kind of the one that made the first foray into playing around with destructible meshes, and made some basic structures to test. And the first time I spent an afternoon putting together a castle set that I could kind of piece together, and a tower. And the first time I took one of our fireballs and smashed it into a castle wall and it crumpled into pieces. That felt so amazing to me, and I immediately started cackling with laughter. Like that instantly scratched that unsatisfied mage player itch that I've had for years. And I knew instantly that we had something, that we had to include this, and it was something very special.
Will it be challenging for you guys to make sure that Fictorum runs well? Because, you know, it's like a bunch of spells going everywhere and like buildings being destroyed, and I'm guessing quite a few minions will be on the screen as well. Will that be a challenge? Or
so far, I mean, obviously we're always looking for optimizations, but credit to the Unreal Engine, the game just runs well in general. We've been, we were really nervous sending our game out to Let's Players. There's a lot of Let's Play videos out there you can see, and you'll see that the frame rates are doing fairly well out there. Obviously, if someone goes ridiculous and starts literally destroying an entire town all at once, things can get a little bit choppy, but overall, we're really happy with how the performance is doing. That's not to say that it's going to run on integrated graphics. You're going to need a graphics card. I think we're putting the minimum about at GTX 760, which at this point is a few years old. Great time, incidental timing for us. AMD and NVIDIA are both releasing new generations of video cards that are leaps and bounds above what was out. So, since we're not releasing for another year, by another year, hopefully everyone will have really good video cards, and performance won't be an issue. We've been super happy with how our game's been performing, and we've always been aware of that.
Yes, and fortunately, there are a bunch of tools in the Unreal Engine that will help you monitor what is using the majority of your processing and GPU, and being able to monitor that and say, oh, hey, this piece is causing a bunch of additional processing. Let me take a look at why, or let me disable that, and being able to experiment with that. On top of that, between Greg and I are tech fiends and have a plethora of computers to test things out on. So just for scale, I was able to run one of our most recent builds on a 4-year-old gaming laptop. And, it didn't run great by any stretch of the imagination, but it still had, about 20 FPS on conservative settings, which considering, you're going into that situation not expecting to be able to play the, the most top of the line games, but considering
Right.
that it is a fairly visually impressive game, and there's a lot of things, a lot of game mechanics going on at the same time, and you can still
Yeah.
play and see what's going on. I think that's a pretty cool thing.
Right. Um, will it be hard on the processor, on the CPU? Because certain games can be pretty taxing on the CPU. But I would say this mostly AAA like open world games though.
Yeah, I think we're doing pretty well on the CPU front. The only time that begins to become an issue is if we get too many AIs on the screen at one time. That's about the only thing we've seen hit the CPU.
Right. Will you guys be taking advantage of DirectX 12?
Uh,
I just updated to Windows 10 just for that, to be honest.
I don't, I'm not even, probably not. I'm not sure if I mean, honestly, not even sure if it's supported in Unreal Engine yet. And
Oh, okay.
if it is, I mean, maybe we will. I'm just looking if I can find where it's at in the engine. Nope. Honestly, I'm not sure.
All right. So regarding your spell, it's not really Fictorum doesn't really have a spell creation, right? It's more of a spell modifier system.
Yes.
Would you say that?
Yes.
Right.
If
Can you please explain like the mechanic
of course
to the people listening? Yeah.
So basically the way it works is you have a base spell. So let's say, for instance, a fireball. We love showing fireball in our videos. It's common, pretty common spell. And you can apply properties from runes, physical runes that the character has to that spell. So you could find a, let's say a multi-shot rune and apply that to your fireball spell. And by default, that spell is going to get a little bit of that, that multi-shot capability. But if you break into our spell shaping system, basically you start the spell, toggle our spell shaping, and then move this spell towards any of those available runes. So you could say, all right, I've got my fireball, it's casting, and I want to shape it towards multi-shot. So by doing that, then you can, toggle spell shaping once again, go back to aiming, fire your spell, and you'll have, say, 3 fireballs fired as opposed to just 1. Same thing applies to a bunch of different runes that we have in the game. I think we have 12 at the moment. We're still looking to add a couple more. So things like chain reaction, where a spell will leap to a new enemy, high explosive that increases the area of effect, things like that. And I should say the majority of runes can be applied to pretty much any other spell. It can still be applied to an area of effect lightning spell. It can be applied to a close range flamethrower spell. So it allows for the player a lot of diversity and free-form customization of their spells on the fly, which I think a lot of games haven't really touched on. It's been more static customization to create that base spell that you cast all the time. And every spell,
pretty much, yeah.
Yeah, and every spell that you're casting beyond that is always the same fireball. It might be, slightly enhanced or added in little features that you had, that you had customized, but that's it.
Right. I see it as a very good way to, like you say, constantly customize on the fly, choose the appropriate spell for a certain situation, as well as it's pretty simple. I understood it straight away just from watching the video.
And that's kind of what we were going for. Just simple, easy, and incredibly powerful.
Nice. So how did you guys scope for Fictorum? And how is it different compared to the original idea? Has it evolved?
There's almost nothing the same about the original idea of Fictorum and where we are at now. Fictorum, in its infancy, started out as a mage, as a tower defense game where you were going to play as a mage that was going to cast powerful spells while you stood on top of your tower that enemies were going to try to invade your tower. And that was the original idea for Fictorum. There's not much left of that idea.
What made what made you guys change from tower defense to like third person action?
How quickly we were getting work done in the Unreal Engine. We were really surprised about the ease of working in the Unreal Engine. And the original concept was a tower defense because we thought it would take us, a couple years to make a tower defense game. And we had gotten up our first prototype in I don't even want to, a couple months. And after just playing that prototype, we're like, this isn't really that fun, but casting powerful spells is a lot of fun. Let's explore this a little bit more in other avenues. And we actually had this other. Then it evolved into this really complicated idea where we got way too overscoped of what we were capable of as a small studio. Right. And then we dialed it back to where we are now in Fictorum.
Right. I read that after each playthrough, there will be some sort of like a summary.
Yep.
Of your adventure,
mm-hmm.
and you get a title from that summary, right? To your character.
You earn titles as you play through the game.
You earn titles as you play.
So, and then it'll assign a title, one of your titles, right now at random. Eventually, we'll probably have a weighting system for which title you earned the most of, and that will be the title you will be given at the end of the adventure.
Mm-hmm.
And that can be brought over to the next playthrough, right?
So the way it kind of works is we have special titles that we have in the game. So think of it more like achievements when you play on, say, Steam or Xbox 360. When you do something really cool, you get that achievement. So we wanted those achievements to directly matter to the player. So if you go through, a town, and let's say you destroy every single town, every single house on that map, like there is nothing left. Because you so thoroughly destroyed that town, you get a special title calling you like the second apocalypse or something like that. And some of these special achievements will have an associated starting title with that. And a starting title in our game is your character is so awesome with magic, so incredibly competent with it, in that you can, before you have already started your adventure, you are already kind of well known with how great you are with magic. And so this modifies, by changing that starting title, that changes the story a little bit by saying, all right, so by default, maybe the initial character might have been really good with fire magic, but now you unlocked this cold starting title, this frostbound starting title, and now you have access to an entirely new equipment and rune loadout that you can play around with in another playthrough.
Right. So, my question is it gonna be, is it meant to be played multiple times?
Absolutely.
So, but it's not really a roguelike, right?
That may not be a completely inaccurate statement. We've been I shy away from calling it a roguelite because I feel like that has some connotations to the gameplay that our game doesn't really have. But it's
like permadeath and all that.
Well, we do have permanent death. So. It'll be multiple. It plays a lot like FTL. It does play a lot like roguelites. I probably shouldn't shy away from calling it a roguelite. That's probably not fair at all. I just there seems to be a lot of games that are a lot of roguelites are way too roguelike for me. If that makes any sense, where everything's completely random. There's a little bit more structure to our game than that. So that's one reason I've been avoiding using the word roguelike, because that really indicates that like everything in the game is completely procedurally generated, and that's just not true of our game. It plays a lot. It plays a lot like Diablo 2 on hardcore mode than a roguelite, I would say. If you want to call Diablo 2 on hardcore a roguelite, that is fine. I think it's a new genre incoming, I feel like. So I'm not exactly sure where the lines of that genre begin and end.
So it's a bit of a mish and mash of a few things.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Right.
There's definitely a lot of roguelite elements, and we also completely plan on including a mode where there is not permanent death. We're designing it that there's permanent death, but we also recognize that there's people out there that don't want to play a game with permanent death.
Like me.
My co-developer's brother is notoriously bad at video games, and if he wants to play our game, he's not going to want to play it on permanent death because he'll never make it past the first or second level. So
Right.
they're just, you know.
So if I can give you a little perspective,
Right.
So FTL, I think, is a great measure of a good level of challenge and difficulty in a roguelike. It's, it takes a couple times to figure out what you're doing. You're probably going to die fairly quickly, but as you start getting the hang of it, you're going to get further and further and finally take down the final boss. So I think Greg and I were sharing our playthroughs when we first bought the game back in 2012 or whenever it had finally released. And we finally beat it after, like, let's say 2 or 3 months or something like that. I think Reese got the game shortly after I did. And I really hope he never listens to this interview, but he just sent me a text like maybe 2 months ago saying, like, after years and years of trying, he finally beat it on easy. And I was like, good job, buddy. Really, really proud of you, man. But anyways, I guess what I'm trying to say here is that we want to hit that balance, or at least give players the choice on the difficulty that they choose, that they're setting themselves up for, that appropriate level of challenge. And I think also what a lot of games have been playing around with recently is having roguelites with incredibly long play times. A game I've tried recently is Sunless Sea, and though it's a really cool game, I like the concept of it. One of my complaints was that the playthroughs are incredibly long. I'm on one that's like, I don't know, I probably put 20 hours into it or something like that, and I've got like a good ship. I've got maybe like 40% of the greatest ship that you can get to, and you kind of need that ship in order to complete this game. So we're edging more towards like the 2 to 4 hour playthrough, so that at the end of it you don't feel like you've really truly lost something, and just leave the game totally pissed off.
Right. Will there be rewards when you die? Let's say if you couldn't finish like one playthrough and you die and you have to start the next one, will there be anything that you can bring over?
For one, the starting titles won't be tied to beating the game, except a few of them that involve beating the game. The titles won't be tied to finishing the game. If you achieve a title and then die, you'll unlock that starting equipment. Adding in things like heirloom items that pass down or something like that isn't something we've considered. But it is something we'll be open to adding if that's what feedback from our alpha directs us to.
Right, and from the videos that I've seen, there's a very visceral feel when you throw the spells. Like, what were the specific things that you think lent to that feel, other than the buildings being destroyed and stuff?
That is
was that even a goal?
Chip. That's definitely Chip's goal.
So I'm gonna give you a little bit. We've made a lot of different spells in the game when we were first trying things out, and we're trying to have a full progression of like, hey, you're going to start with Flare, then you're going to go to Fireball, and then eventually Greg and I got to the point where we made a rule between ourselves that there are no crappy spells in the game. No starter spells, no, getting familiar. Oh, well, you're just getting into the lightning school, so you got to start with Spark. No one really wants to use Spark. No one wants to use Ember, or
nobody wants to be Jubilee.
No,
exactly.
So There were a couple spells that we created along the way that one of us would either just say this spell feels terrible. It doesn't, it doesn't have that grand effect on your surroundings that we're going for. We want when a spell lands in Fictorum, you kind of flex the stomach muscles a little bit, like, yeah, that was awesome. You want enemies to go flying, you want something to break, you want something flashy to communicate to the player that you are this amazing wizard.
Nice.
And that's been something that has been incredibly important to our game. Something that we've been holding ourselves to shortly after we started this project.
So you're pretty much a badass from the first go.
Exactly. Badass indeed.
Nice.
You're not
Nice.
a lot of like a standard fantasy trope is that you're some farm boy that rises up into greatness.
Right.
Like that's a really standard trope, and we just
Pretty much, yeah.
we didn't want to do that. No, you're like as soon as you step foot into the world of Fictorum as your character, you're the most powerful mage that lives. Like there's no one that's as powerful as you are from when you first step foot onto the world. Our that was our objective with the game is we wanted you're the mage that is changing the course of history. You're not starting off as some farm boy. You're starting off as a really powerful mage and only going to get more powerful as you play through.
Right. And I would say that would be very. I think when somebody hears that, it will sound very fun. But I think it does also come with its certain challenges. Like, if you're gonna be a badass mage from the get go, right? What kind of how do you challenge the player?
So
Are you just gonna throw more AIs?
that's certainly what we're trying to do, and something that we are actively looking to challenge the player in new ways. The challenge in Fictorum comes from multiple enemies attacking you from different angles using varied attacks, and especially as you get further on into regions, you're going to come up against incredibly powerful heroes that sure alone probably won't be able to take you unless maybe you just have a really poor spell for the situation, something like that. But having this kind of Greg said it best himself as we're going, as we were talking about our Kickstarter video, that we are bringing down an empire. Like you are charged with doing this by yourself. And so just by sheer quantity, you are challenged.
Right.
I'll also make another point. Something that's oddly unique about our game that's not something that used to be unique at all is your health doesn't regenerate. And that's really where the base challenge of our game comes from. Yeah, those 30 archers may not be a problem and you blow through all of them, but 1 or 2 arrows hitting you is damage you now need to deal with. Right now, your only option is to go to a shop and use the currency to pay for healing. So all that little damage adds up over time. And that's...
Can I destroy that shop?
No.
It's not a shop in the game world, right? It's like a hub.
Exactly.
Yep.
Right.
So... that's where the base challenge of our game comes from, is the fact that you have unlimited power and unlimited potential, but you don't have unlimited regeneration. You don't regenerate.
You're still mortal.
You're still mortal. You
Right.
can still be killed,
Right.
and taking these hits is what will add up over time. Is the expectation is that one enemy won't ever take your character down. You're not going to get beat by a single enemy in the game. You're going to get beat down because you've taken on 20, 30 enemies, and they just got to you for some reason. Maybe you weren't paying attention, they snuck up on you and they got a few hits in, or whatever. You walked
Right.
into carelessly and got hit by a few arrows. Like that's what's going to kill you in our game, not the fact that something that you come across is super duper challenging.
So being a badass can be the problem itself. You being too cocky and then going against too many at
That
once?
actually just happened to Chip in one of our developer streams. We were playing, and he was like, "Look at me, I'm so good!" And he got to a level, and he got really cocky and ran into a bunch of enemy mages who aren't nearly as good, but there was like 20 of them, and he was surrounded and just got absolutely wrecked by a bunch of spells. You know, so
Right.
you,
Yeah,
you can
I had my humble pie with a side of crow. It was very humbling.
Will there be defensive spells? Healing or shields or anything like that?
definitely not healing because that takes away from part of our game, but things like shields and
Right.
stuff like that, where there will be types of shields and other defensive abilities in the game. We haven't forayed much into that, but that will definitely be happening, and we'll definitely be taking some feedback as our game's developed on what type of defensive spells people would like to see.
Right. That's going to be
Right.
one of our priorities as soon as our Kickstarter's finished.
Right. So you're currently Kickstarter. Your goal is 25K, and you are at about 19K with 15 days to go, which is really good. But I noticed that you don't have any what you call that, tier goals?
Stretch
What is it
goals.
called? Tier goals. Stretch goals, right?
That's entirely
Was that never in consideration, or?
that's entirely my fault. I hate stretch goals. I absolutely
Right. Right.
absolutely hate stretch goals. Mainly because I've backed quite a few Kickstarters in the past, and I think stretch goals are the like root of all evil when it comes to
Do
Kickstarters.
you think it's a scoping issue? They were-
Exactly, because people
Right.
overpromise all the time, and it's not even
Right.
it's not just about money. It's also about time. We
Time.
want to get this game released within a year of our Kickstarter ending, and adding stretch goals such as like, oh, if you get if we hit $75,000, we'll release on the Xbox and PlayStation 4. Like that would take a significant time investment to make sure we could release for those two consoles, and or things like
Right.
another thing we would love to add is like modding support. If we get another $25,000, oh, we'll add modding support. Like that doesn't that money doesn't pay for modding support. Time pays for modding support, and we don't have infinite time. That doesn't buy us more time. So I just wanted to avoid stretch goals in general because I just think they it can add too much scope creep to a game, and it's
Right.
and the other thing is there's another view that I've seen on it, and this isn't my personal problem with it, but it is kind of holding features of your game hostage. It's like, well, these are things we want to do, but you better give us money or we're not going to do them. And I don't. That's the other aspect of stretch goals that is kind of the negative aspect of stretch goals.
How far will the 25? Let's say you get 25K. How far will the 25K bring you guys? How far can you go with that?
It certainly won't pay for our time. We're pretty much working for free here, but we are planning on spending a significant portion of that on art and animation. So that 25K can help us. I mean, a direct translation would be about 12 character models, or depending on complexity. Or an entire massive new set for
Buildings.
for buildings. That'd be that'd probably be about 2,000 of that. And these are the type of things that we want to add some variation to the game to make it look. We have our main character in the game that we love. And has some really cool effects to him, and some of Unreal's latest rendering capabilities on him, and that's something that we want to bring more of to the game. A lot of the models that we have in game are placeholder, or at least we're expecting they're going to be placeholder, and that's just going to make our game more polished. We also need to pay for writing for our events and things like that. So
Right.
it just overall expands the depth of Fictorum, and how rich the world and artistic style can be.
That's something I'd just kind of like to point out. A lot of people see that amount of money and go, well, there's no way that's paying for their salaries. And you're right, it's not, and it was never going to. Like, we're not running the Kickstarter to pay ourselves money. We're running the Kickstarter so we can hire more contractors for more art to make our world look better than it currently does. That was
Right.
the short version. Anyway.
So are you guys working on this full time?
No, this is both. It's a passion project for both of us, and our day jobs allow us
Right,
to
right.
fund the rest of this
Right.
project.
Right. So okay. So regarding marketing, just one simple question about marketing. You guys mentioned in your Kickstarter page, you work with a company called The Social Stage on your social media.
That's right.
That's right. What have you learned from working with them? And was there anything that kind of surprised you? Like, oh, I didn't know it was supposed to be done that way, kind of thing.
Actually, the owner of the Social Stage is my good friend Lauren Meekove, and she has been my Jedi master of all things social media. We see each other very often, and we've been working on this project for over a year. And she first, when I first told her that I was working on this sort of thing, and I told her that I'm going to need to ramp up my marketing, she said that she'd be, more than willing to kind of, show me what she does. And so I guess most of what I know about social media and how to do things properly, and what you should tweet out, what you shouldn't, what tags and who you should call in there, how often you should post, all of these things I learned from Lauren.
Right.
And bringing her on was more of and she's been working with us during this Kickstarter directly, which is really fun to get to see the great work that she does. It's more to help us make sure that we have everything covered, just because we weren't sure how popular we were going to be, and it looks like we were right to bring her on. She has been invaluable, and she's been doing stuff that we just can't really comprehend, and we are super grateful for all of the stuff that she's done and all of the help that she's given us.
Nice. So how much would you say Fictorum is at right now? Like, how many percent complete do you think?
Oh, I hate assigning a percentage on that. So if just in terms of pure time, I'll say 60%, because we've put a little bit more than a year into the project, and we've got probably about another year to go before we're at release quality. So I'm just going to throw a number at 60% on there. I think percents it's really hard to do with game dev, but I'll just 60%.
Okay, so one more question and I'll let you guys go. Are you guys gonna put it on early access?
We don't have a strong answer for that. I don't. We're not going to put it on early access anytime soon. That I can answer very confidently. And if we do go to early access, it'll be at a beta stage. And beta is a weird word because people use it all over the place. But to give you an idea of the type of beta we would want to send out, it would be on the level of a Blizzard beta, which is what a real beta is. It's when your game is effectively complete, but you just need that extra feedback and extra things like that. So if we go on early access, it'll be for a beta period. I don't want to do it in alpha. I can't imagine us doing it in alpha, but and as a related note, I think I have it on the FAQ on the Kickstarter. If we do early access, anyone that backs us at the $20 tier, which says a release copy, will get a early access copy.
Right, and so the target date is next year, middle of next year, right? Like June, July.
June, July for the release of the full version of Fictorum. If we were going to do early access, it'd be somewhere in that range of 3 to 6 months beforehand, most likely in that closer to release than further away.
Right.
Okay, cool. So yeah, that's all with my interview about Fictorum and scraping about the games. So tell people, where can they find you guys? On Twitter, Facebook?
So you can find us on our website at www.fictorum.com. We're also at scraping_bottom games on Twitter.
Just scraping_bottom on Twitter.
There we go. Sorry about that. And our Facebook page is Facebook.com/Fictorum.
And we have a subreddit on Reddit, which is r/Fictorum.
Nice. So yeah, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.
And
Thank you very much for the interview.
thank you. Nice. And thank you for listening. And we will see you next time. Bye bye.